how are you, my friends? Did you have a good weekend last week? I hope you did, and if you didn't, I pray that this week will be a better week for you. Thank you again for joining me, and I am ready to fellowship with you. I hope you are. Let's pray. Friends, today can you pray? Can you do the open prayer? Can you just try? Okay? All right. Amen. Thank you for trying. All right, let's get into worship. Are you ready? Are you ready to dance? All right, let's go.
He's the one who makes the sun shine. He's the one who puts the moon in the sky. He's the one who hung the stars one by one. He's the one who makes the birds sing. He's the one who makes your dreams so high. He's the one who makes me smile. Day by day, Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend. Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend. Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than Spider-Man. Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than Superman. Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than Batman. Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than anyone. Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend. Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend. Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend. Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend. Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than Bobby. Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than Action Man. Yeah, 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 yeah. Better than everyone. Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend. Jesus, you're my superhero. You're my star, my best friend.
Friends, I hope you had fun with that dance song. Jesus, you're my superhero. You are my best friend. I hope that blessed you because that tells me that Jesus is definitely much, much more stronger than anything that I can think of. So I don't have to fear if I put my trust in Jesus. I don't have to be worried if I put my trust in Jesus because He can take care of everything, right? Friends, today I have a fun story for you to hear and to learn from. We're going to be talking today about Abraham. We have talked about Abraham before in the past, but today we're going to look at a different story about the life of Abraham. Remember, Abraham was called a friend of God. He was faithful in his doings, and Abraham was part of the generation of Noah and part of the line that were faithful to God. Okay, the last time we talked about Abraham, we talked about Abraham and Sarah and the promised child that God gave to them in their old age. But today we're going to talk about what happened before that. They were living in a city and God told them to leave where they are, leave their friends, leave everything that they had, everything that they known, and to go into a place that he was telling them to go to. Then Mr. Abraham and his wife, at that time their name was Abram and Sarai. But later on God changed her name to Abraham and Sarah. But yes, God told them to leave and go to the promised land that he has promised them. And Abraham decided to take his nephew Lot with them. And sometimes when God tells us to do something and we don't do exactly what God has told us to do, it causes problems in our life. Okay, remember we talked about obedience in the past as well. We talked about how to obey right away and obey all the way, just as God has said to do. Yeah, so in this lesson, I want you to pay attention and have your minds and ears open, and we're going to discuss the lesson from the video after. So pay attention, sit tight, and listen.
The Faithful Hall of Fame. Abraham. This is Abraham.
Hey.
When Abraham was younger, he was known as Abram.
Oh.
Abram lived in a place called Haran. One day, God told Abram, "Leave your home with your family and go to a place that I will show you."
Ah.
So Abram traveled with his wife Sarai, their nephew Lot, and the rest of their family. The new land that they made home was crowded. Abram said to Lot, "Let's not fight. Is the whole land not before us? Let's split up. You go one way and I will go the other way."
Aha.
So Lot looked to the left and to the right. He saw that the land of Jordan was well taken care of, so Lot chose to go the way that looked better to him. He took his family and they settled in the beautiful land, near the town of Sodom. Abram took his family and they moved the other way. Then one day, God said to Abram, "Look up. All the land you see will be blessed. I will give it to you and your family forever." Abram received the promise and the blessing because he was faithful.
I know that was a short video, friends, but there was lots in that video, and I hope you paid attention and enjoyed the story as well. Because, as usual, I have some questions for you. Question number 1. What is the name of Abram's nephew that he went on the journey with? Did you say Lot? Good. His name was Lot. Good job. Question number 2. How did Abram end the argument between his herdsmen and Lot's people? How did Abraham end Abram? How did he end the argument that was going on back and forth with his people and Lot's people? Does anybody remember that from the story? Did he fight back? What did Abram do? No, he did not fight back. He told Lot that they should separate and go different ways, so their cattle and all the things, the animals that they had, could have plenty of space, so they can all have their own space, so they can be free to have enough water and have enough food, and they wouldn't have to fight anymore. So sometimes when there are arguments, sometimes we just have to walk away. And sometimes that might bring peace. We have to think of what will bring peace. We don't always have to argue back. We don't have to fight. Sometimes we need to just walk away, and that will bring peace. We just leave everything to God, and sometimes that brings peace. Okay? Question number 3. What promise did God give to Abraham? What promise did God give to him? Does anyone remember that from the story? Yes? God promised him that he was going to give him lots of descendants, so lots of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren and lots more. Isn't that a fantastic promise? Can you imagine that? I think that's an amazing promise. Friends, we've learned a lot so far, from the beginning of creation till now. So I think that it's time that we did an overall, a recap of everything that we have learned so far. Sometimes it's good to get a refresher so that your mind can remember the things that you have learned. So if you're ready, stay put and listen. And try and see if you can remember some of the stories. I'll be right back.
So this is where we are in the story.
God made a perfect world, but people messed it up. God started the whole earth over again
With an enormous flood.
but he saved one guy and his family, and everything was good again. But after lots and lots of years, it seemed like not much had changed. People were still selfish,
Still mean.
and the world still wasn't how God wanted it to be. So God decided to fix everything that had gone wrong.
With one very special family.
That's where Abram comes in.
Abram was an old man.
75.
That's old.
Before Abram even knew who God was, he heard him speaking to him.
God told Abram to leave his home and go to a new country.
Imagine if God told you to move far away, like tomorrow, to Canada or Uzbekistan. Well, Abram did it.
He left his home and went where God told him to go.
And God told Abram that he'll make them to a great nation.
Which was a big deal because a great nation meant lots of kids.
And grandkids?
And great-grandkids.
But
Abram didn't have any kids.
Remember, he was 75.
And that's pretty old.
And his wife, Sarai, was 65.
Kids never ask a woman how old she is.
So God's promise seemed kind of unlikely.
Not just unlikely.
Impossible.
but Abram believed.
So he waited and waited and waited some more. For almost 25 years. And when Abram was 99 years old,
God told him again
that he would have a son.
And as part of this promise, God changed Abram's name to Abraham. And Abraham's wife became Sarah.
So Abram was now Abraham.
and Sarai was Sarah.
As a way for them to remember God's promise to them.
The promise that they would have a son. God even told Abraham what to name his son.
Isaac.
And God said Isaac would have 2 sons of his own.
Abraham's family would keep growing
And growing.
And growing. Sarah still had a hard time believing this.
She even laughed at God.
She was 90 after all.
but God always keeps his promises.
And a year later, Isaac was born. And years later,
Another special baby was born into the same family.
His name was Jesus.
Have you heard of him?
but just think,
If Abraham had stayed home and ignored God,
maybe none of that would have happened.
But that's another part of the story.
Hey friends, I hope that was a good refresher for you. I know we've learned a lot from the beginning of creation up until now. I just thought it would be good to kind of bring it all together and go over it again. It helps us to remember what we've learned so far, and the good points and learning points and learning lessons from the different stories that we've gone through, and be able to apply it to our life. Okay, so I hope it blessed you. But before we end today, I want you to take with you two major lesson points from Abraham and Lot's story. The first one is when God tells you to do something, if you obey God's directions, He will bless you, and He will honor your obedience. I know it's been a theme that's gone through a lot of the stories that we've gone through so far, but it's really important that when God tells you to do something, you obey it, and you obey it fully, you obey it promptly, and promptly as in right away, and you obey it the way that God has told you to do it. And point number two that I want you to take with you today is that when God tells you to do something, God doesn't necessarily tell other people. So sometimes when you go around and tell other people what God has told you, they're going to discourage you and bring you down, because that's not what God told them. And remember in the story of Noah, people were laughing at him building the boat, and thinking that he was crazy because they don't know what God told him. But Noah was faithful, and he obeyed what God has told him to do, and at the end his family was saved because of his obedience. Okay, so you never know what your obedience is gonna do in the future, and who it's gonna bless. So just remember, when God tells you something, you can trust your parents, and you can open up to them about that, if about what you feel like God is leading you to do, because they are your guardians. God puts you in their life for a reason. But friends and other people outside of that, be really careful who you share those things with, because God told you, and it's for you to act on, and you don't need anybody's approval for that. Okay? Friends, it's been so much fun hanging out with you. I hope today's lessons blessed you. I have attached to the bottom of the page, the bottom of this video, a coloring sheet that you can work on, and go ahead and make your creativity shine, color, and you can write stories on there if you want, but it's for you to feel free and draw on it and shade in and work on during the week. And remember to memorize your Bible verse. And I did not share our Bible verse for today. Oopsie-doo.
Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God.
Remember, our Bible verses are tools in our toolbox that we can pull out in times of need, and it will help us with our walk with God. Okay, I hope you were blessed today. It was definitely awesome hanging out with you. I wish you have a blessed week, and we will see you next week. Okay, take care, and bye for now.